The council chamber floated in the darkness of space, a massive station where representatives from 1,000 worlds gathered. Today the usual calm was gone. Panic filled the air like smoke. Councillor Thek stood at the center platform, his blue skin darker than usual with stress. His 3 eyes blinked rapidly as he displayed the data for everyone to see. The holographic images showed star systems going dark one by one. Entire planets vanished from sensors. Billions of lives simply stopped existing. The void swarm has awakened, Thex announced, his voice carrying across the silent chamber. 12 worlds will fall within 3 cycles. We cannot stop them. Commander Varys of the Galactic Peacekeeping Forces stepped forward. Her tall frame moved with military precision, but her hands trembled slightly. She had fought in 17 conflicts across the galaxy. She had never shown fear before. Today was different. Our fleets engaged the swarm at Telecos 4, Varys reported. We lost 80% of our forces in the first hour. The swarm doesn't fight like anything we know. It adapts, it learns, it consumes. The chamber erupted in worried voices. Species from every corner of known space spoke over each other, offering solutions that everyone knew would fail. Some suggested evacuation. Others proposed diplomatic contact. A few recommended surrender. Ambassador Nix raised one of her forearms for silence. She was old even by her species' long standards. She had served the Council for 200 years. She had seen empires rise and fall. She had negotiated peace between ancient enemies, but she had never looked as tired as she did today. There is one option we have not discussed, Nix said quietly. The chamber fell silent. Everyone knew what she would say next. Everyone had been avoiding it. Earth, she continued. We contact the humans. The reaction was immediate and loud. Half the council shouted in protest. The other half sat in stunned silence. Earth was the forbidden world. The quarantine planet, the place where evolution had gone terribly wrong. Absolutely not. Councillor Thex's voice rose above the others. We quarantined them for good reason. They nearly started a war during first contact. They are aggressive, violent, and completely unpredictable. They are also alive, Nix replied calmly. Which is more than we will be if the swarm reaches the core worlds. Commander Varys studied the tactical displays again. The swarm moved like a living thing, flowing through space like blood through veins. Traditional military tactics failed, because the swarm had no command structure to target, no supply lines to cut, no home world to threaten. It simply existed and consumed. What makes you think humans could succeed where we failed? Varys asked. Nix pulled up Earth's file. The data was 200 years old, sealed after first contact went wrong. Images showed a blue-green planet with violent weather systems, extreme temperature variations, and an atmosphere that killed most species within minutes. The gravity alone would crush half the species in the chamber. Look at their world, Nix said. Earth scores 9.2 on the Deathworld Index, the highest on record. Everything on that planet is designed to kill everything else. The plants are toxic. The animals are predators. The microorganisms wage constant war. Even the weather is lethal. That proves they are dangerous, Thex argued. It proves they know how to survive, Nix countered. The swarm is a survival problem. We need survival experts. The debate continued for hours. Finally, facing certain extinction, the council voted. The margin was narrow, but the decision was made. They would contact Earth. Nix led the delegation herself. 3 ships jumped to the edge of the Sol system, where Earth's orbital station hung in space like a small metal moon. The station was old, built with simple technology. The humans had maintained space presence despite their isolation, but they had not advanced much in 2 centuries. A message came through in basic galactic standard. This is Captain Han of the Terran Defense Initiative. State your purpose. The voice was flat, emotionless, almost mechanical. Nix wondered what kind of species communicated with so little feeling. Then she remembered that humans had evolved in a world that punished emotion. Survival required control. We request an audience, Nix replied. The galaxy needs your help. There was a long pause. Then Han responded, Come aboard. Docking Bay 7. The delegation entered the station carefully. The gravity hit them immediately. Even reduced to Earth normal, it felt like wearing a weight suit. The air tasted strange, thick with oxygen levels that would intoxicate most species. The temperature was warm enough to make Thex sweat through his climate suit. Captain Han waited for them in a simple conference room. He was shorter than Nix expected, which meant nothing given Earth's crushing gravity. His face showed no expression. His eyes were dark and steady. A younger woman stood beside him wearing the same simple uniform. Her name tag read Lieutenant Yuna. Ambassador Nix. Han greeted them with a slight nod. 200 years is a long time between visits. This must be important. Nix explained everything. She showed the data on the Void Swarm, the destroyed worlds, the failed military campaigns. She spoke for an hour while Han and Yuna watched in silence. When she finished, Han studied the holographic displays for a long moment. "You quarantined us because we were too dangerous," Han finally said. "Now you want our help because we're dangerous." "Yes," Nix admitted. There was no point in lying. Han looked at Yuna. Something passed between them without words, the kind of communication that came from years of working together. Yuna pulled up additional data on her tablet running calculations. "The swarm behavior reminds me of something," Yuna said quietly. "Portuguese man-o-war, fire ant colonies, locust plagues, earth problems," Han agreed. He turned back to Nix. "We've been fighting swarm intelligence since we lived in caves. We understand hive behavior because we had to. On Earth, if you don't learn how colonies work, they kill you. Then you will help?" Thex asked hopefully. "On one condition," Han said. "We pick our own team from Earth. We choose who comes and how we fight." Commander Varys nodded immediately. "Agreed. How many soldiers do you need?" "A battalion? A division?" Han looked at Yuna again. They both smiled slightly, though the expression never reached their eyes. 12. Han said, "We need 12 people." The delegation stared at them in shock. 12 humans against a swarm that destroyed fleets. It was insane. It was suicide, but they were desperate. The council had begged for heroes, and the humans had answered. Now they would see what Deathworlders could do. Han and Yuna prepared to return to Earth. As they left, Nix heard Han say something to Yuna in their own language. She didn't understand the words, but she understood the tone. It was the sound of predators preparing to hunt. The galaxy had asked for help. Earth was responding. Nix hoped they were ready for what that meant. The descent to Earth was terrifying. Ambassador Nix and her team followed Han's ship down through the atmosphere, and every moment felt like falling into hell. The clouds were thick with water and electrical storms. Lightning struck so close that their shields flickered. The turbulence threw them against their restraints again and again. Han's voice came through the radio, calm as ever. "Welcome to Earth. This is a good weather day." Nix looked at the storm outside and wondered what a bad day looked like. She didn't ask. They landed at a military facility built into the side of a mountain. The base was simple but solid, designed to survive anything the planet threw at it. Nix noticed blast doors that could seal in seconds, walls thick enough to stop nuclear weapons, and air filtration systems that suggested the atmosphere itself was sometimes hostile. "Earth is beautiful," Yuna said as they stepped out of the ship. She was smiling, genuinely happy to be home. "You should see it in storm season." Thex looked at the gray sky, the distant lightning and the rain that fell hard enough to hurt. "This is not storm season?" "No, this is autumn," Yuna replied. "Storm season is summer. That's when the hurricanes come." The recruitment began immediately. Han had already contacted the people he wanted. Over the next week, the team assembled, and the council observers watched in growing horror. The first recruit arrived by submarine. Corporal Tay surfaced from an ocean dive so deep that the pressure should have crushed him flat. He wore a simple suit and carried equipment that looked ancient by galactic standards. But he moved with easy confidence, someone who had worked in environments that killed others just for existing there. Tay builds things in places where building should be impossible, Han explained. He once constructed a research station inside an active volcano. "He's our engineer." Tay nodded at the aliens without much interest. He was more focused on studying their ship's hull composition. "Interesting," he muttered. "Lightweight but brittle. This wouldn't last a day in deep ocean pressure." The second recruit came from the desert. Sergeant Mina ran into the base after completing a 100-mile training exercise in heat that made the climate control systems scream warnings. She wasn't even breathing hard. Her dark eyes assessed everything and everyone in seconds, the way predators evaluated threats and opportunities. "Mina thinks 3 steps ahead of everyone else," Yuna told them. She grew up in a place where one mistake meant death from heat, cold, or a dozen different venomous creatures. She learned to outthink nature. Now she outthinks enemies. Mina studied the tactical data on the Void Swarm. Predictable, she said after 10 minutes. They follow optimal consumption patterns. We can use that. Dr. Kwan arrived from a research facility that the aliens were not allowed to approach. He wore a biohazard suit and went through 3 decontamination cycles before joining them. His eyes were tired but sharp, the look of someone who dealt with death at the microscopic level every day. Kwan studies diseases, Han said simply. Earth has millions of them. They evolve constantly, adapt to anything, and kill efficiently. He understands how biological systems work and how they fail. Kwan examined the swarm data with professional interest. It's organic, he observed. Anything organic can be infected, poisoned, or starved. I'll need samples. Scout Hana emerged from the rainforest like a ghost. One moment the tree line was empty. The next she was standing there, covered in mud and holding equipment the aliens didn't recognize. She could track anything through any terrain. She had learned in a jungle where everything hunted everything else and only the aware survived. The swarm leaves traces, Hana said after reviewing the sensor logs. Heat signatures, chemical trails, gravitational distortions. I can follow this. Lieutenant Sung landed a fighter jet in conditions that should have torn the aircraft apart. The aliens watched him bring the plane down through crosswinds that exceeded safety limits by 300%. He made it look easy. He had learned to fly in Earth storms, where the atmosphere itself was an enemy. Sung can pilot anything anywhere, Yuna said with obvious pride. He once flew a damaged shuttle through a hurricane to rescue stranded researchers. The computer said the flight was impossible. He did it anyway. Medic Sora arrived covered in someone else's blood. She had been working in the emergency medical center, saving lives with equipment that looked primitive to the aliens but worked efficiently in human hands. She had kept people alive in war zones, natural disasters, and situations where any reasonable person would have given up. Sora fixes people when they should be dead, Han said. Human medicine is aggressive because our bodies fight us constantly. She knows how to win those fights. The recruits kept coming. Day, the tech specialist who could hack any system because human digital security was the most paranoid in known space. Bo, who carried weapons that weighed more than most aliens entirely. His body shaped by Earth's gravity into something that could bear impossible loads. Leah, who spoke 17 Earth languages and could learn alien linguistics faster than translation computers. Bora arrived with her head full of data analysis and pattern recognition. She could see connections that others missed, because she grew up navigating ecosystems where everything affected everything else. Wu came from a mining colony, carrying explosives that were banned on civilized worlds but were normal tools on Earth. And Gina, the close-quarters specialist who fought with an intensity that frightened even other humans. By the end of the week, Han had his team of 12. They stood together in the briefing room, and the alien observers felt something they hadn't expected. Fear. Not fear of the swarm. Fear of the humans. These weren't soldiers in the traditional sense. They were survivors from a planet that shouldn't produce sentient life. Each one had skills honed by a world that tried to kill them every single day. Each one looked at danger the way normal people looked at minor inconveniences. This is your strike team? Commander Varys asked, her voice uncertain. This is humanity, Han replied. You wanted to know what a death world produces. You're looking at it. Yuna pulled up Earth's historical data. Our species survived ice ages, plague, famine, and wars that killed millions. We survived because we adapt faster than anything else. We survived because we're stubborn. We survive because giving up means dying, and we really hate dying. Tay checked his equipment with calm efficiency. Mina reviewed tactical plans with cold calculation. Kwan examined biological samples with scientific detachment. The others prepared in their own ways, each one focused and ready. Ambassador Nix watched them and felt a chill despite the warm air. She had asked for heroes. But heroes were brave people who overcame their fear. These humans didn't seem afraid at all. They looked at an existential threat the way someone might look at bad weather. Annoying but manageable. We leave in 3 days, Han announced. Use that time to rest and prepare. The swarm won't wait, and neither will we. The team dispersed to their quarters. The aliens stayed in the briefing room trying to process what they had seen. They're not human, Thex whispered. They can't be. No species should be like this. They are exactly human, Nix replied quietly. This is what happens when evolution occurs on a world that never stops trying to kill you. They're not brave. They're not fearless. They're simply accustomed to fighting for survival every moment of every day. Commander Varys looked at the data on Earth one more time. the Death World Index of 9.2, the extreme climate variations, the deadly organisms, the constant environmental threats. We created them, Varys said slowly. The universe created them. It threw everything possible at one planet, and somehow intelligence emerged anyway. These humans are the answer to a simple question. What happens when life refuses to die? The answer was standing in the next room, checking weapons and discussing tactics. The answer was 12 people who looked at an unstoppable swarm and saw just another Tuesday. Earth had heard the galaxy's desperate plea. The Deathworlders were responding, and the universe was about to learn what that meant. The ship that would carry them to the front lines was called the Resolve. It was a galactic military vessel, top of the line, equipped with every comfort that advanced civilization could provide. The human team boarded with simple bags and basic equipment. They looked around at the luxury with mild amusement. "This is a warship?" Tay asked, examining the soft furniture and decorative lighting. "It looks like a hotel," Commander Varys bristled slightly. "This ship has the best shielding, weapons, and life support in the fleet. But can it take a hit?" Bo asked, tapping a wall panel. "These walls are thin. One breach and whole sections decompress. The shields prevent breaches," Varys explained, "and when the shields fail..." Mina pressed. Varys had no answer. In galactic warfare, ships rarely took direct hits. Combat happened at long range with precise weapons. The idea of planning for shield failure seemed almost primitive. The journey to the threatened worlds would take 2 weeks. The alien crew expected those weeks to pass quietly. They were wrong. On the 3rd day, the environmental control system malfunctioned. The temperature in the common areas began to fluctuate wildly. Within hours, it swung from near freezing to dangerously hot. Most of the alien crew retreated to emergency climate suits or went to medical bay with temperature shock. The humans barely noticed. Ambassador Nix found them in the training room, working out as if nothing had happened. Han was running on a treadmill in conditions that should have caused heat exhaustion. Yuna practiced combat moves in temperature swings that should have caused hypothermia, followed by heat stroke. "Aren't you uncomfortable?" Nix asked, watching Sung do pull-ups in the fluctuating heat. "A bit," Sung admitted, "but Earth's temperature can change 40 degrees in a single day. Our bodies adapted to handle it. We sweat when hot, shiver when cold, and keep functioning through both." Dr. Kwan explained it in more scientific terms. Humans evolved during climate instability. Ice ages, volcanic winters, extreme seasons. Our species survived because we could adapt to temperature changes that killed other animals. "This?" He gestured at the malfunctioning environmental controls. "This is mild." The system was repaired after 30 hours. By then, 3 dozen crew members had needed medical treatment. The humans had continued their normal routines without interruption. The second incident happened during the 4th day. The food synthesizers broke down, leaving only emergency rations. The ship's doctor declared the rations edible but barely nutritious, suitable only for short-term survival. The alien crew faced the prospect of slow starvation over the remaining journey. The humans tried the emergency rations and shrugged. "Tastes fine," Leah said. "Bit bland, but we've had worse." "These rations lack essential nutrients for most species," the ship's doctor protested. "We're omnivores," Kwan explained. "Humans can eat almost anything organic. Our ancestors survived by being able to digest whatever we could find. Plants, animals, insects, fungus. Our guts can break down materials that poison other species." Sora added, "We evolved competing with millions of other species for food. We had to be flexible. These rations have calories and basic nutrition. That's enough for us." The humans actually gained weight during the ration period while the aliens grew thin and weak. When the synthesizers were fixed, several crew members needed nutritional supplements. The humans just appreciated the improved taste. The training accident happened during the 2nd week. A power surge caused an explosion in one of the cargo bays where galactic security forces were practicing. 3 aliens were caught in the blast. The injuries were severe: burns, lacerations, internal damage, and shock. The ship's doctor examined them and pronounced the prognosis grim. 2 might survive with intensive care. The 3rd would likely die within hours. The medical technology available was good but not designed for trauma this severe. Medic Sora pushed past the doctor and went to work. What she did shocked everyone watching. She cut into damaged tissue without hesitation, removing what couldn't be saved. She forced broken bones back into alignment. She cleaned wounds with chemicals that should have caused additional trauma. She worked with speed and aggression that seemed more like violence than medicine. "Stop," the ship's doctor pleaded. "You're making it worse." "I'm keeping them alive," Sora replied, not looking up from her work. "Human medicine is battlefield medicine. We learned healing in conditions where people were actively dying. We don't wait for perfect conditions. We fight death directly." She worked for 6 hours straight. When she finished, all 3 patients were stable. They would survive. They would recover. The ship's doctor stared in disbelief. "How?" the doctor asked. "Earth doesn't let us be gentle," Sora explained, cleaning her instruments. "Our own bodies fight us. Infections, cancers, organ failures. We evolved aggressive medicine because passive medicine didn't work. You learn to heal by assuming everything is trying to kill your patient, including their own body." The alien crew began to understand something frightening. Humans weren't just adapted to survive Earth's environment. They were adapted to survive anything. Their bodies, their minds, their very nature had been shaped by a world that never stopped testing them. Captain Han held a briefing during the final week. He gathered the alien command staff and explained the human approach to the swarm. "You've been treating this like a military problem," Han said. "You're trying to fight the swarm with tactics designed for fighting other civilized species. That's why you're losing." Commander Varys frowned. "What else would we do?" "Treat it like an environmental problem," Mina answered. "The swarm isn't an army. It's a natural disaster. Humans know natural disasters. Floods, fires, earthquakes, plagues. You don't fight disasters with honor or strategy. You fight them with whatever works." Han pulled up data on Earth's history. Images showed humans battling hurricanes, wildfires, disease outbreaks, and ecological collapses. "We've been fighting swarm intelligence for millennia. Locust plagues that destroyed crops. Ant colonies that consumed everything. Bacterial infections that spread exponentially. We learned how to win." "The swarm adapts," Varys argued. "It learns from every encounter." "So do we," Yuna replied. "Faster. Humans are adaptation specialists. We evolved doing it. The swarm is good at adapting to static environments. Let's see how it handles an environment that changes constantly." Wu grinned, an expression that made the aliens uncomfortable. "You fight fire with fire. You fight swarm with chaos. Make them react to us instead of us reacting to them." Ambassador Nix listened carefully. She was beginning to understand why the Council had quarantined Earth. Not because humans were evil or aggressive, but because they thought differently. 200,000 years of surviving on a death world had created minds that saw problems in ways that terrified civilized species. "You're going to do things that violate every convention of warfare," Nick said quietly. "Yes." Han agreed without hesitation. "We're going to use biological weapons, environmental manipulation, and tactics that you'll find disturbing. We're going to be ruthless and efficient, because the swarm doesn't care about your conventions and survival doesn't care about your comfort." The alien crew was silent. They had asked for help. They were getting it. But they were discovering that help from Deathworlders came with a price. Witnessing what survival really looked like when civilized rules no longer applied. Gina spoke for the first time during the briefing. "You called us here because you were desperate. You wanted someone who could do what you couldn't. We're those people, but don't ask us to fight like you because your way doesn't work. Let us fight like humans or let us go home." It wasn't a threat. It was a simple statement of fact. Commander Varys looked at her crew, then at the humans, then at the tactical displays showing the approaching swarm. She thought about the billions of lives hanging in the balance. She thought about her responsibility to her people and to the galaxy. "Fight your way," Varys said finally. "Do whatever it takes to win," Han nodded. "Then understand this, we're not here to be heroes. We're here to survive and help you survive. On Earth, survival is earned, not given. The universe is hostile. Life is hostile. Existence itself is hostile. We learned that lesson billions of years before we reached the stars." The ship flew on through the darkness toward the swarm. In the cargo bay, the humans prepared equipment and reviewed plans. They moved with calm purpose, like mechanics preparing to fix a broken machine. The swarm that terrified the galaxy was, to them, just another problem that needed solving. Ambassador Nix watched them work and realized the truth. The galaxy had begged for heroes. Earth had sent something more frightening and more valuable. Survivors who refused to accept defeat because their whole existence was built on defying impossible odds. The Deathworlders were coming. The swarm should have been afraid. Korvax Prime hung in space like a blue jewel, home to 4 billion souls. The evacuation ships were loading as fast as possible, but billions more remained on the surface. They had 3 days before the Void Swarm arrived. 3 days to save everyone they could and prepare to lose a world. The Galactic Fleet had positioned itself in a defensive formation that Commander Varys privately knew would fail. 50 warships against a force that had destroyed 3 times that many at Telecos 4. But what else could they do? Running meant abandoning Korvax Prime. Fighting meant dying with honor. Then the humans arrived, and everything changed. Captain Han studied the defensive formation for exactly 30 seconds before declaring it garbage. You're sitting in space waiting to be attacked. That's not strategy. That's suicide with extra steps. Commander Varys bristled. We're protecting the evacuation ships and the planet. You're creating a target, Mina corrected, highlighting the formation on her display. The swarm will hit you from multiple vectors simultaneously. Your shields will overlap poorly. Your firing solutions will risk hitting your own ships. And when the swarm breaks through, which it will, there's nothing between it and the planet. What would you suggest? Varys demanded. Don't defend, Han said simply. Hunt. The alien command staff stared at him as if he'd spoken a different language. Hunt the swarm? The unstoppable force that consumed star systems? Scout Hana pulled up her analysis. The swarm sends scout organisms ahead of the main force. They map the target, identify resources, and coordinate the attack. They're in the asteroid field right now. She pointed to a cluster of rocks 20 million kilometers from the planet. We've detected unusual energy signatures there, Varys admitted. But those could be false readings. They're scouts, Hana insisted. I've tracked the pattern across 3 systems. The swarm is predictable if you know what to look for. Bora added her analysis. The swarm follows optimal consumption patterns. Maximum resources, minimum resistance. But they need intelligence first. Blind the scouts and the main force arrives confused and disorganized. Han turned to Varys. Give us 3 ships. Small, fast, and expendable. We'll eliminate the scouts. The main swarm arrives in 3 days. We'll make sure they arrive blind. It was insane. 12 humans and 3 small ships against swarm creatures that had destroyed battlecruisers. But Varys looked at the defensive formation that would fail, looked at the planet full of people about to die, and made a decision. Take what you need, she said. 6 hours later, 3 scout ships dropped out of formation and headed for the asteroid field. Han piloted the first ship with Yuna, Tay, and Quan. Sung flew the second with Mina, Hana, and Sora. Bo commanded the third with Day, Leah, Wu, and Gina. The asteroids were dark and cold, perfect hiding places for organisms that didn't need oxygen or warmth. The scanners showed nothing at first, then flickered with readings that appeared and disappeared like ghosts. There, Hana said, highlighting a sector. 3 signatures trying to mask their presence. Sung took his ship in fast, weaving between asteroids with maneuvers that made the alien observers back at the fleet gasp. The swarm scouts detected them and responded. Organic ships erupted from hiding places, their hulls made of something that was part metal, part biology, all nightmare. The first scout creature was twice the size of their ship, covered in sensors and weapons that pulsed with living energy. It moved faster than anything that size should move, adapting its course to intercept them. Bo, give me a firing solution, Sung called out. Too close for missiles, Bo replied. Wait for it. The creature closed to point-blank range. Its weapons charged, preparing to fire. At the last second, Sung rolled the ship and brought them alongside the creature's hull. Bo fired directed energy weapons at 0 range, burning through armor that should have been impenetrable. The creature tried to adapt, tried to shift its defenses, but humans fought at ranges where adaptation time didn't exist. The scout died, its biological systems failing in the vacuum. 1 down, Sung reported. 2 more in this sector. Han's ship found the second scout hiding in an asteroid's shadow. This one was smarter, waiting for them to pass before striking from behind. But Tay had seeded the asteroid with sensor packages hours before. He knew exactly where the scout hid. It's going to ambush us, Tay warned. Good, Han replied. Let it think it has us. They flew past the asteroid, seemingly unaware. The scout creature launched itself at their rear, weapons glowing. At the last moment, Han cut engines and activated reverse thrusters. The ship stopped so suddenly that everything not strapped down flew forward. The scout overshot them by 100 meters. In that second, Gina fired a barrage of explosive rounds directly into the creature's propulsion system. The scout tried to adapt, tried to heal, but the explosions tore through its biological machinery faster than it could compensate. It died in silence. The third scout in that sector was the smartest. It had watched its companions die and learned. When Bo's ship approached, the scout didn't attack. It fled, broadcasting warnings to the main swarm. "It's calling for help," Day reported, monitoring the signals. "Can you jam it?" Bo asked. "No. But I can corrupt the message." Dai's fingers flew across his console, hacking into the scout's communication system with techniques that made no sense to watching aliens. But human computer security had evolved in an environment of constant cyber warfare. Hacking a biological communication system was just a different kind of problem. The scout's message changed. Instead of accurate intelligence about the human ships, it sent data suggesting the defense fleet was weak, disorganized, and in the wrong position. The swarm would arrive expecting an easy victory in a different location. "Got it," Day said. "The message is corrupted. The swarm will arrive off target. Kill the scout anyway," Bo ordered. "No witnesses." Wu launched a missile that seemed too dumb to hit anything. The scout easily dodged. Then the missile detonated between the scout and the nearest asteroid, creating a debris cloud traveling at extreme velocity. The scout flew directly into the cloud and was shredded by thousands of rock fragments moving faster than bullets. The hunt continued for 18 hours. The human teams found 27 scout organisms scattered across the asteroid field. They destroyed all of them, using tactics that horrified the watching fleet. They fought at knife fight ranges where shields didn't matter. They used the environment as a weapon. They took risks that should have killed them, but instead killed their enemies. Sung flew through an asteroid collision that should have destroyed his ship. The swarm scout following him wasn't as skilled. Mina calculated trajectories that put swarm creatures between human weapons and hard asteroid surfaces. Hana tracked scouts through sensor dead zones using techniques that shouldn't work but did. Sora kept the crews alive through G-forces that should have caused blackouts. Dr. Kwan's contribution was the most disturbing. He had brought samples of modified Earth viruses in shielded containers. When they captured a damaged but living scout organism, he infected it with a pathogen designed to target the swarm's biological components. "Is that legal?" one of the alien observers asked. "No," Kwan replied honestly. "Biological warfare is banned by every galactic convention. But the swarm isn't part of those conventions, and I'm not here to follow rules. I'm here to win." They released the infected scout, damaged enough to flee but alive enough to carry Kwan's gift back to the swarm. The virus would spread through the hive's connected biology, not killing but weakening, not destroying but disrupting. "That's monstrous," Ambassador Nix whispered, watching from the fleet. "That's human," Yuna replied over the comm. "We've been fighting biological warfare since before we discovered fire. Every disease we survived made us better at understanding how to use disease as a weapon." "You wanted Deathworlders? This is what that means." The human ships returned to the fleet after 20 hours, damaged but intact. All 12 humans walked off alive. Behind them, the asteroid field was littered with dead swarm scouts. Commander Varys ran the calculations. With the scouts eliminated and their intelligence corrupted, the main swarm would arrive disorganized and targeting the wrong location. The virus would weaken their coordination. The element of surprise was gone. "You changed everything," Varys said to Han. "The swarm has never been hunted before. They've always been the hunters." "Everything's a hunter until it meets something that hunts better," Han replied. "On Earth we learned that lesson early. Humans weren't the strongest, fastest, or most dangerous creatures on our world, but we were the best hunters. We outthought, outplanned, and outweighted everything else." The main swarm arrived exactly 3 days later, right on schedule. But instead of finding a disorganized defense fleet at evacuation points, they found an empty space. The galactic fleet had repositioned based on the corrupted intelligence the scouts had sent. The swarm emerged in the wrong place, blind and already infected with Kwan's virus. The battle lasted 18 hours. It was brutal, violent, and nothing like civilized warfare. The humans taught the galactic fleet to fight like Deathworlders. Close range, rapid adaptation, absolute ruthlessness. They turned asteroids into weapons, used the star's gravity as a trap, and fought with a ferocity that shocked even their allies. When it ended, the swarm retreated for the first time. The war against the Void Swarm continued for 8 months. What began with 12 humans became 100, then 500 as volunteers from Earth joined the fight. They brought human tactics, human weapons, and human stubbornness to every battle. The swarm that had consumed worlds for millennia found itself being systematically destroyed by creatures from a single planet it had never heard of. Captain Han led the campaign with cold efficiency. He didn't fight for glory or honor. He fought to win. Each battle was calculated to maximize damage to the swarm, while minimizing human and alien casualties. He used tactics that made civilized species uncomfortable, but kept them alive. Lieutenant Yuna coordinated with the galactic fleets, teaching them to fight like humans. She showed them how to use environment as a weapon, how to adapt faster than the enemy, how to turn disadvantages into opportunities. Some officers resisted at first. Then they saw the results and became converts. The battles told the story. At the Helios cluster, Sergeant Mina led a strike team that collapsed 3 swarm hive nodes by targeting their biological communication networks. At Terminus Station, Lieutenant Sung flew suicide runs through swarm formations, drawing fire and creating openings for the fleet. At the Void's Edge Nebula, Dr. Kwan released a modified pathogen that swept through the swarm faster than it could adapt, killing billions of organisms in days. Each victory came with a price. Humans died in the fighting, ships were lost, worlds were scarred by battles. But for every human that fell, millions of aliens lived. For every ship destroyed, dozens were saved. The mathematics of survival didn't care about individual tragedy. By the 6th month, the swarm's coordination was collapsing. The hive minds that had operated with perfect unity for millions of years were fragmenting, confused by enemies that attacked in ways they couldn't predict. By the 8th month, the swarm was in full retreat, fleeing to dark space where humans couldn't follow. The war was won. The galaxy was saved. And now came the harder question: what to do about Earth? The Galactic Council convened an emergency session once again. This time the chamber wasn't filled with panic. Instead, it held an uneasy tension that Ambassador Nix recognized as fear. Counselor Thex opened the session with a statement that surprised no one. The humans saved us, but in doing so they demonstrated capabilities that concern this council greatly. They used biological weapons. They fought with ruthlessness that borders on savagery. They violated every convention of civilized warfare. They won, Commander Varys countered. We were losing. They changed that. At what cost? Thex argued. We now have a species in our galaxy that thinks nothing of weaponizing disease, fighting at ranges where adaptation is impossible, and treating war as simply another survival problem. What happens when they turn those capabilities against us? The debate raged for hours. Some council members proposed renewed isolation for Earth, stronger than before. Others suggested integration, but with limitations on human military expansion. A few extreme voices suggested preemptive action, though they were quickly silenced when Varys pointed out how badly that would go. Ambassador Nix listened to it all with growing frustration. Finally, she stood and spoke with an authority that came from 200 years of service and 8 months of watching humans fight. You're all asking the wrong question, Nix said. You're asking what to do about humans. The real question is, what have we become that we needed them to save us? The chamber fell silent. We built a civilization based on peace, cooperation, and mutual respect, Nix continued. Beautiful ideals. But we forgot that the universe doesn't care about ideals. We forgot that survival sometimes requires ugliness. We became so civilized that we lost the ability to fight for our existence. She pulled up images from the war. Human soldiers fighting in conditions that killed aliens. Human medics saving lives with aggressive medicine. Human tactics that won battles through sheer refusal to accept defeat. Humans aren't monsters, Nix said. They're survivors who do what survival requires. Yes, they used biological weapons. They also gave us vaccines against the swarm's infections. Yes, they fought ruthlessly. They also took greater casualties than any other species protecting our worlds. Yes, they're dangerous. But they're dangerous in our defense, not in our conquest. Counselor Thex wasn't convinced. How do we know they won't turn on us? Before Nix could answer, a voice came from the chamber entrance. Because we don't want to. Captain Han entered with his team of 12 originals. They wore simple uniforms without ceremony or decoration. They looked tired, carrying the weight of 8 months of constant warfare. But they stood with quiet dignity. We didn't come here to conquer, Han said, walking to the center of the chamber. We came because you asked for help. We fought because people were dying. We won because we're good at surviving. That's all. Una stepped forward. You're afraid we'll become a threat. We won't. Do you know why? Because Earth already taught us what happens when survival becomes about conquest instead of preservation. We nearly destroyed ourselves a dozen times through wars, environmental collapse, and weapons that could kill billions. We learned. We learned that survival isn't about being the strongest, Mina added. It's about being smart enough to know when to fight and when to cooperate. Dr. Kwan spoke next. You're worried about our biological weapons. Don't be. We're more worried about them than you are. We know what they can do. That's why we use them only when necessary, and always with precautions. Fear makes you careful. We're very careful. One by one, the original 12 spoke. Tay talked about building instead of destroying. Hana about tracking threats before they became dangers. Sung about the responsibility that came with power. Each one made the same point. Earth survivors understood survival better than anyone, and survival meant cooperation, not conflict. Finally, Han addressed the core fear. You think we're monsters because we did monstrous things, but you asked us to do them. You begged us to use our Deathworld nature to save you. We did. Now you want to punish us for being exactly what you needed. We're not punishing you, Thex protested. You're debating whether to isolate us again, Han replied. That's punishment. It's also stupid. The swarm isn't destroyed, just scattered. It will regroup eventually. Other threats will emerge. The universe is hostile. It doesn't stop being hostile because you won once. The truth of his words settled over the chamber like cold water. Ambassador Nix spoke again. The Council must decide. Do we welcome Earth as partners or do we repeat the mistake of isolation? Remember, isolation didn't make humans less dangerous. It made them independent. Next time they might not answer when we call. The vote took 3 days of debate. In the end, wisdom won over fear. Earth would join the galactic community, but as partners, not subjects. Humans would share their knowledge and receive knowledge in return. They would not be conscripted or controlled. The quarantine would end. When the decision was announced, Han nodded once. Good, we'll help where we can. But understand something. We're not your soldiers. We're not your weapon. We're humans. We survive, and now we'll help you survive too. The integration began slowly. Human technology was primitive in some ways, advanced in others. What Earth lacked in energy weapons they made up for in material science, biological understanding and adaptability. What they lacked in faster-than-light travel efficiency, they made up for in ship durability and life support systems that could function in impossible conditions. More importantly, humans brought a philosophy that the galaxy had forgotten. They taught that survival wasn't shameful, that fighting for existence was honorable, that doing ugly things to prevent worse outcomes was sometimes necessary. They taught that life was worth protecting, even when protection required violence. 6 months after the vote, Captain Han stood before the Galactic Assembly to give humanity's first official address. The chamber was packed with representatives from 1,000 worlds, all wanting to see the Deathworlder who had saved them. Han kept his speech short. You called us Deathworlders like it was an insult. You're right. Earth is a death world. It made us hard. It made us dangerous. It made us into survivors who refuse to quit even when quitting seems rational. He looked across the assembled species, meeting eyes with representatives from worlds that ranged from paradise planets to harsh frontier colonies. But Earth also taught us something else. It taught us that life is precious because it's fragile, that cooperation is stronger than competition, that survival isn't about being the toughest, it's about being the smartest and most adaptable, that every living thing deserves a chance to keep living. Una joined him at the podium. You begged for heroes. We're not heroes. We're humans. We're the species that refused to die when a planet tried to kill us for 200,000 years. We're the species that turned survival into an art form. And we're the species that will help ensure life continues in this galaxy, no matter what threatens it. The speech received mixed reactions. Some species applauded enthusiastically. Others remained cautious. But everyone understood. Earth had arrived, and the galaxy would never be the same. The original 12 returned to Earth as ambassadors, educators, and advisors. They trained new generations in Deathworlder tactics. They shared Earth's hard-won knowledge.